ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगणललितांश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So we are almost there in the last leg of the Bhagavad Gita. So that is the 17th chapter we are going through. Then after that we have one more chapter. So that's the end of this Bhagavad Gita. So then after that we will again start with Srimad Bhagavatam. So let's start this the 14th shloka. देवद्विजगुरुप्राज्ञा पूज्यनं शौचं आर्जवं ब्रह्मचर्यम् अहिंसा च शारीरं तप उच्यते. Austerity of the body consists in worshipping the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master, and the superiors like the father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence. So these are all the austerities of body. Purport. The Supreme Godhead here explains the different kinds of austerities and penances. First, he explains the austerities and penances practiced by the body. One should offer to learn, one should offer or learn to offer respects to God or the demigods, the perfect qualified brahmanas, and the spiritual master and superiors like father and mother, or any person who is conversant with Vedic knowledge. These should be given proper respect. One should practice cleansing oneself externally and internally, and he should learn to become simple in behavior. He should not do anything which is not sanctioned by the scriptural injunctions. He should not indulge in sex outside of marriage life, for sex is sanctioned in the scriptures only in marriage, not otherwise. This is called celibacy. These are penances and austerities as far as the body is concerned. So here we see that the austerities of the body consist of offering respects to the superiors and then people who are conversant with Vedic knowledge, the Brahmanas and spiritual master, and then cleansing oneself internally and externally. So externally by the way of taking bath, generally the spiritual practitioners they take bath thrice a day. So that's a general custom. So the body tends to get unclean, over a period of time. So it is very important to keep the body cleansed at least twice a day. So the best practice is thrice a day, right? So then internal cleanliness is by the way of uh, like the reciting of the Vedic scriptures, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and then studying the scriptures, hearing them, and things like that. So this is internal cleanliness. So, and then we should not do anything which is not sanctioned in the Vedic scriptures. And here it's talked about the illicit sex. So, sex is only in the marriage, and that too for procreation of Krishna conscious children. So, that is called celibacy. So, these are all some of the austerities and penances which in relation with the body. So, then text 15 Anudvega Karam. Audio is not clear. Okay. I'm not sure. Just a minute, I'll just check. Uh, it's the normal setting that I have. Everyone is okay. Gopi Prabhu, it is okay audio or it has to be changed?
Probably little less it is, but I could hear. But thing is, I felt a little less. Volume is less.
Okay. Okay. I'll try to speak up a little louder. Okay. Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyam hitam cha yad swadhyayabhyasanam chaiva vanmayam tapa uchyate. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literatures. So, this is the next austerity, that is austerity of speech. Purport: one should not speak in such a way as to agitate the mind of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students, but such a teacher should not speak to those who are not his students if he will agitate their minds. So that means the teacher can speak something very, even if it is harsh, the truth can be spoken. So to his students for education. So somewhere there should be some proper channel where we can actually learn things, even if it is um, even if it is little hard or even if it is little harsh. Somewhere the truth has to be learned. So if somebody is agreeing to be a student, so then the teacher can speak something very harsh also. If it is truth, so then it should be taught. So but then if we cannot just go around to people and then speak in a way that agitates them. That's not very good. Okay, so this is penance as far as talking is concerned. Besides that, one should not talk nonsense. The process of speaking in the spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures. So, this is something very important. So, this is an austerity of speech, right? So, that which is upheld by the scriptures can be spoken. No, otherwise, like I can go and give my opinion and things like that. What's the use of my opinion? So we should not. This whole world is behind this thing. So everybody wishes to comment upon something, and they don't consider what is their qualification to comment upon. So if we know the scriptures and if we are offering comments based on the scriptures, so then that is of some value. Otherwise there is no point in speaking or commenting upon, right? So one should at once quote from scriptural authority to back up what he is saying. At the same time, such talk should be very pleasurable to the ear. By such discussions, one may derive the highest benefit and elevate human society. There is a limitless stock of Vedic literature, and one should study this. This is called penance of speech. Okay, so let's read this shloka again. Anudvega, no, udvega means like it is not agitating. Anudvega karam vakyam. So the words should be like not agitating. Satyam, it should be truthful. Priyam, no, it should be mixed with no, like it is not out of harshness. No, it is out of no good intention. No, and then hitam. So this is also very important. It's spoken for others' benefit. So satyam priyam hitam chayat swadhyaya bhyasanam chaiva. So like we have to do abhyas of swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means to study the Vedic scriptures on a regular basis. So these are all called the Vanmayam. So Van or Vak means like is the speech, the capacity of speech, and the tapasya for speech is these things. So speaking in an unagitating way, and then speaking the truth, and it is priya hitam. No, it is for the well-being of the people. No, in that way it has to be done. So these are all some of the ways of speaking, and then even recitation of the Vedic scriptures, Svadhyaya Abhyasanam. So that is also called as Vanmayam Tapa Uchyate. Right? So these are all. So, anyways, we have studied the purport. So we'll go to the 16th shloka. Manaprasada saumyatvam maunam atma vinigraha bhava samshuddhiriti etad tapo manasam uchyate. So this is austerity of mind. So austerity of body, austerity of speech, and austerity of mind. So all the three things are mentioned. Okay, and satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence, or the austerity of the mind, right? So Mana Prasadat. So, like it is mentioned that to be satisfied is a great thing. So, there are many people who cannot be satisfied at all. No, anything that you do, they will not become satisfied. So, then they are not doing the austerity of mind. So, we have to find something at some level, we have to be satisfied. And then simplicity, not complicating things. And then gravity. So gravity means like it's not what is it to think very deeply, or to respond to things with a lot of deliberation and things like that. It's not very the opposite to gravity is like very frivolous, or very casual. No, casual means it's the opposite to gravity. Gravity means like with a lot of thought, and with something that is some examples that are given for gravity is like ocean. So ocean is very, very deep and very stable, like that. So it's gravity. And then self control. So the mind is a seat or the controller of all the senses, and if the senses can be controlled, that is also an austerity of mind. Hmm. And then purification of one's existence. So this is like by the practice of spiritual practices and things like that. So one can avoid the exposure to the modes of nature. So if we avoid the exposure of modes of nature, then it's purification, right? So purification of one's existence. No, these are all the austerities of the mind. Purport: to make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. It should be so trained that it can be always thinking of doing good for others. The best training for the mind is gravity in thought. One should not deviate from Krishna consciousness and must always avoid sense gratification. To purify one's nature is to become Krishna conscious. Satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from thoughts of sense enjoyment. The more we think of sense enjoyment, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. In the present age, we unnecessarily engage the mind in so many different ways for sense gratification, and so there is no possibility of minds becoming satisfied. The best course is to divert the mind to the Vedic literature, which is full of satisfying stories, as in the Puranas and the Mahabharata. One can take advantage of this knowledge and thus become purified. The mind should be devoid of duplicity and should think of the welfare of all. Silence means that one is always thinking of self realization. So that means materially silent, spiritually active. Right? So the person in Krishna consciousness observes perfect silence in this sense. Control of the mind means detaching the mind from sense enjoyment. One should be straightforward in his dealings and thereby purify his existence. Yeah, so this is also a very important point. So if our thought process is very complicated, so we are not simple and straightforward, so then it's very difficult for us to purify our existence. So straightforward in our dealings, so this is something very important. That is also austerity of mind. Okay, all these qualities together constitute austerity in mental activities. Okay, text 17. Shraddhaya paraya tapam tapasthat trividam naraihi apala kankshibhir yuktaihi satvikam parichakshate. So now Krishna is mentioning, after describing the three kinds of austerities: austerity of body, austerity of speech, and austerity of mind. So now Krishna is going to tell how these austerities are going to be in different modes. Here Satvikam Parichakshate is mentioned. So that means it is the austerity in the Sattva Guna, or in the mode of goodness. So how is it going to be there? This threefold austerity performed with transcendental faith by men not expecting material benefit but engaged only for the sake of supreme is called austerity in goodness. So austerity in goodness is not for after I do this austerity, what am I going to get it? So that is, if I'm going to get something in return, then that is like kind of I'm looking for return. I am very much attached to the result, what is going to come out of my austerity. Then that austerity is in mode of passion. So mode of goodness means I'm not at all attached to the result that is going to come, but I'm just doing it because it is mentioned in the scriptures and it is pleasing to the Supreme Lord. So just for that sake I am going to do. So then it becomes austerity in mode of goodness. Then satkaramana pujartham tapodhambena chaivayat. So here we can see that satkara, like, offer, the respect should be offered to that person who's donating. So expecting honor, no, mana, no, expecting honor, pujartham. So like puja la pratishtha, like, no. So this kind of, I am doing some austerity for that. No, people should recognize me and people should offer me respect and things like that. So let's see what kind of austerity it is. And tapo dambena chaivayat kriyate tad iha proktam rajasam chalam adruvam. So this is austerity in Rajoguna. And we have to take note of these three modes of nature. And Krishna mentions about these three modes of nature. Even 2 chapters before, a whole chapter was dedicated for this. And these three modes of nature in Rajoguna, what is the result of Rajoguna? It is misery and pain and things like that. So, this kind of austerity that a person performs, like in Rajoguna, thinking of expecting some pride and expecting some honor and things like that. So, it is going to be very, very painful. They are doing some austerity, and austerities themselves are painful. But in addition to that, because it is in Rajoguna, it is going to be even more painful. Right? Okay. Translation: penance performed out of pride and for the sake of gaining respect, honor, and worship is said to be in mode of passion. It is neither stable nor permanent. Purport: sometimes penance and austerity are executed to attract people and receive honor, respect, and worship from others. Persons in mode of passion arrange to be worshipped by subordinates and let them wash their feet and offer riches. Such arrangements, artificially made by the performance of penance, are considered to be in the mode of passion. The results are temporary. They can be continued for some time, but they are not permanent. So, because they are not in the mode of goodness, permanence means mode of goodness. So, because they are not in the mode of goodness, so they are not going to be like satisfied, and they cannot continue it for long, right? Okay, text 19. Mudagrahenatmano yat pidaya kriyate tapah paras parasyotshadanartam va tattamasam udahrutam. Penance performed out of foolishness with self-torture or to destroy, injure others is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Okay. Purport: there are instances of foolish penances undertaken by demons like Hiranyakashipu, who performed austere penances to become immortal and kill the demigods. He prayed to Brahma for such things, but ultimately he was killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To undergo such penances for something which is impossible is certainly a mode of ignorance. Okay, text 20. Datavyam iti yaddanam diyate anupakarine desha kale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smrutam. So now the danam, this is charity is mentioned. So charity in the three modes of nature. So charity given out of duty without expectation of return. So we can make a note. So in the goodness, so one common thing that is coming is without expectation of return, without attachment to the result. Attachment to the result is passion, and like doing things which are impossible or doing things which are very, very contradictory to the scriptures is mode of ignorance, right? So that's how the general trend of these three modes. So like in mode of goodness means without any attachment to the result. So then it becomes mode of goodness. And devotees, for practicing Krishna consciousness, at least we should work on mode of goodness. And later on, we should give up this and also go to the purified mode of goodness, which is called Vishuddha Sattva, or pure mode of goodness. So this what we are studying now is a material mode of goodness. So even that has to be transcended, over a period of time. So, okay, charity given out of duty without expectation of return at the proper time and place and to a worthy person is considered to be in the mode of goodness. Purport: in the Vedic literature, charity given to a person engaged in spiritual activities is recommended. There is no recommendation for giving charity indiscriminately. Spiritual perfection is always a consideration. Therefore, charity is recommended to be given at place of pilgrimage and at a lunar or solar eclipse, or at the end of the month, or to a qualified Brahmana or a Vaishnava devotee or in temples. Such charity should be given without any consideration of return. Charity to the poor is sometimes given out of compassion, but if a poor man is not worth giving charity to, then there is no spiritual advancement. In other words, indiscriminate charity is not recommended in the Vedic literature. Right? So, poor man sometimes is given a job opportunity, or sometimes is given an opportunity for earning a legitimate livelihood. So, it's like simply giving some charity to people. So, that is also not very much recommended in the scriptures. So, like in the Vedic times, the kings used to be very, very powerful, and they used to make sure that all the citizens are properly engaged and they are legitimately earning. And the charity would be given to those people who are not expected to earn. So, who are those people who are not expected to earn? So, they are the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. No, because they are busy exploring or busy trying to conquer the life and death, and they are busy teaching no principles to the people. So, they are not expected to earn, and they should be offered charity. And all other people, if they are not busy with this prime necessity of life, then they should be engaged in appropriate work and they should be provided some livelihood in that way. No, it's not that these days the beggar culture is encouraged, or no, so many beggars are there. So if you see, like, beggar means no, only a devotee of the Lord can be a beggar. No, somebody like other than that, no, he cannot be a beggar. He just took a very easy profession. No, we should actually, if the government is very strong enough, they should catch all these beggars and they should try to engage them in proper work and then give them salaries, so in that way they can actually make their livelihood. And so if they cannot, even people who are lame, even people who are having bodily difficulties, even they should be given an appropriate work which they can do. No, that is a very, very important thing. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, it is very clearly mentioned in the 3rd chapter and in the earlier chapters in the Karma Yoga section. If an appropriate work is not being given, so then idle mind is devil's workshop. So it's not just, the problem is not just ending by feeding some food to the stomach. The problem is much more deeper. The problem is, what will they do with their mind? No, their mind has to find some proper appropriate engagement. Otherwise, they will be doing some ulterior things. So it should be very, very, in the Vedic system, the kings, the Kshatriyas are meant for this purpose. They have to make sure that every single person is appropriately engaged in some kind of work. Right? So otherwise it is no, otherwise it is not very nice actually. So so that's how the beggar culture is not very much encouraged in the Vedic times. So it was everybody were given engagement. Okay, text 21. Yattu pratyupakarartham phalam uddishya va punaha diyate cha pariklishtam taddanam rajasam smrutam. But charity performed with expectation of some return, or with a desire for fruitive results, or in a grudging mood, is said to be the charity in mode of passion. Purport. Charity is sometimes performed for elevation to the heavenly kingdom, and sometimes with great trouble and with repentance afterwards. Why have I spent so much in this way? Charity is also sometimes given under some obligation at the request of a superior. These kinds of charity are said to be given in mode of passion. There are many charitable foundations which offer their gifts to institutions where sense gratification goes on. Such charities are not recommended in the Vedic scripture. Only charity in the mode of goodness is recommended. Okay. Text 22. Adeshakala yaddanam apatrebhyascha diyate asatkritam avajnatam tattamasam mudahritam. So this is completely opposite to the mode of goodness. So adeshakala, that means there is no time and place is considered. And then apatrebhyascha, so that means patra, no, like patra means like a proper recipient of the charity. So here it is mentioned as apartrebhyasya. So like no, there is no like what is that eligible patra, eligible receiver is not there, but still no, to that person is given. And then chadiyate, like asat kritam. So like it is not satkritam, it is not for a good purpose, it is for asat kritam. And avajnatam, so without any proper knowledge and things like that. So tattamasam udahritam. So this is like no in tamoguna. And charity performed at an impure place at an improper time to unworthy person or without proper attention and respect is said to be in mode of ignorance. Purport. Contributions for indulgence in intoxication and gambling are not encouraged here. That sort of contribution is in the mode of ignorance. Such charity is not beneficial. Rather, sinful persons are encouraged. Similarly, if a person gives charity to a suitable person but without respect and without attention, that sort of charity is also said to be in mode of darkness. Okay, text 23. Om Tat Sat iti nirdesho brahmanastrivida smritaha brahmanasthena vedascha yajnascha vihitaha pura. So this Om Tat Sat is a thing that is used uh, it is considered to be the absolute, supreme absolute truth. No, just like Krishna, the name Krishna is non-different from the supreme absolute truth. In the same way, this Om Tat Sat is also a representation of the Supreme Lord. Right? So that we will see here. From the beginning of creation, the three words Om, Tat, and Sat were used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. These three symbolic representations were used by Brahmanas while chanting the hymns of the Vedas and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Purport. It has been explained that penances, sacrifice, charity, and foods are divided into three categories: the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. But whatever first class, second class, or third class, they are all conditioned, contaminated by the material modes of nature. When they are aimed at the Supreme, that is Om Tat Sat, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Eternal, they become means for spiritual elevation. Right? So here we see that no, all the activities that are performed is in the different modes of nature. So when we are trying to do the activities which are aimed for satisfaction of Supreme Lord, so then this mantra is chanted, Om Tat Sat. No, so if we try to do any activity, but if we actually chant this one Om Tat Sat, so anything that is incomplete, that can be made complete, and then we can also voicing out our this one, saying that okay, I'm doing it for Krishna's pleasure, right? So that is, and it can be kind of a remembrance for us, right? So Om is the supreme personality of Godhead, and uh, Tat and Sat means eternity, right? So in this way, like the Lord is addressed. Okay. So in the scriptural injunctions, such an objective is indicated. These three words, Om Tat Sat, particularly indicate the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead. In the Vedic hymns, the Om is always found. One who acts without following the regulations of the scriptures will not attain the absolute truth. He will get some temporary result, but not the ultimate end of life. The conclusion is that the performance of charity, the sacrifice, and penance must be done in mode of goodness. Performed in the mode of passion or ignorance, they are certainly inferior in quality. The three words Om Tat Sat are uttered in conjunction with the holy name of the Supreme Lord. Example, Om Tat Vishnoho Paramam Padam, like that. So, whenever a Vedic hymn or the holy name of the Supreme Lord is uttered, Om is added. This is the indication of Vedic literature. These three words are taken from Vedic hymns. Om iti etad brahmano nedishtam nama indicate the first goal, and then Tattvamasi, Chandogya Upanishad 687 indicates the second goal, and then Sad Eva Saumya, Chandogya Upanishad 621 indicates the third goal. Combined, they become Om Tat Sat. Formerly, when Brahma, the first created living entity, performed sacrifices, he indicated by these three words the supreme personality of Godhead. Therefore, the same principle has always been followed by disciplic succession. So, by this hymn, has so this hymn has great significance. Bhagavad Gita recommends, therefore, that any work done should be done for Om Tat Sat, or for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one performs penances, charity, and sacrifices with these three words, he is acting in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is a scientific execution of transcendental activities which enables one to return home back to Godhead. There is no loss of energy in acting in such a way, such a transcendental way. Right? So, one thing that we can see through in the reading of Bhagavad Gita is that no, Krishna has not left out anything. Krishna has mentioned about how we eat, how we what is the austerities of the body, mind, speech, and then how we do every activity in this world. It's all like in a very amazing way it is covered, and Bhagavad Gita is a greatest guidebook for all of us. And if we can follow this thing, and if we can follow the uh, activities that are done in the mode of goodness, in one sense, like, why do we do various activities and how do we do various activities? Because we have seen it in the TV, or we have seen it somebody else doing it, and then from there we learn to do that particular activity in that way. If we would have been taught in a different way, then we would have been doing that activity in a different way. So now if we act based on the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, so then it becomes, and especially the instructions pertaining to the mode of goodness, so then it becomes a liberating factor. It can actually put us in a proper way. Just like sometimes Prabhupada gives this example, all of us eat, and some kind of eating is going to cause disease, and it's going to cause pain and things like that. And there is another kind of eating. When the doctor prescribes, he's not prescribing something out of the world. No, he's also prescribing some eatables only. So if you have this problem, you eat some turmeric, or you eat some some things like that. He prescribes some of the things, and when he's prescribing the same eating process which had caused us the difficulty and which has caused us the disease, the same eating process is going to become cure also, right? So in that way, like, we see that this uh, the activities, we are anyways doing all activities, and it is causing so much of pain, and many people in the world are in so much of distress because of improper activities. And Bhagavad Gita is helping us by showing us what are the appropriate and proper activities to be performed. And just by doing that, so we become immune to the problems of this world, and we can become happy, right? So this is the same thing. So activities are not to be stopped, but activities have to be done according to the directions given by the Supreme Lord in Bhagavad Gita. Text 24. Tamasad om iti udahritya yajna janat tapa kriyah pravartante vidanokta satatam brahmavadinam. Therefore, transcendentalist undertaking performance of sacrifice, charity, and penance in accordance with scriptural regulations begin always with Om to attain the Supreme. Purport: Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam, Rig Veda 1:20-20. The lotus feet of Vishnu are the supreme devotional platform. The performance of everything on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead assures the perfection of all activities. Right. So the transcendentalists undertake performing sacrifice, charity, and penance in accordance with scriptural regulation. All begin always with Om. So now the Om is described, and then Tat and Sat also will be done. So here we see that this Om is a representation of the Lord, and whenever we take the name of the Lord, so we prefix it with Om. So like, that's the Vedic culture. Text 25. Tad iti anabhisandhya anabhisandhyaya phalam yajnam tapakriyah dana kriyascha vividah kriyante moksha kangshibihi. Without desiring fruitive results, one should perform various kinds of sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word Tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from material entanglement. Purport: to be elevated to the spiritual position, one should not act for material gain. Act should be performed for the ultimate gain of being transferred to the spiritual kingdom, back home, back to Godhead. So this is the tat, this one. And then sadbhave sadhu bhave cha sad iti etat uh, prayujyate prashaste karmani tata sachabdha uh, partha yujyate yajna tapasi dhane cha sthiti sad iti chochyate karma chaiva tad arthiyam sad iti eva vidhiyate. The absolute truth is the objective of devotional sacrifice, and it is indicated by the word Sat. The performer of such sacrifice is also called Sat, as are all works of sacrifice, penance, and charity, which, true to the absolute nature, are performed to please the Supreme Person, O son of Pritha. So, here, the absolute truth is the objective of devotional service, and it is indicated by the word Sat. So the Lord is indicated by the word Sat, and also the performer. No, he is also called as Sat. No, that's why we call it as Sat Sangha and things like that. So, and all the works of sacrifice, penance, and charity. So that's what we had been studying. So, like penances, sacrifice, and charity. So, which are true to the absolute nature, and then are performed for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So they have to be, indicate, they have to be like for this purpose. So then it is of highest nature. Okay, purport. The word prashaste karmani, or prescribed duties, indicate that there are many activities prescribed in the Vedic literature which are purificatory processes, beginning from the time of conception up to the end of one's life. Such purificatory processes are adopted for the ultimate liberation of the living entity. In all such activities, it is recommended that one vibrate Om Tat Sat. The word Sadbhave and Sadhubhave indicate the transcendental situation. Acting in Krishna consciousness is called Sattva, and one who is fully conscious of the activities of Krishna consciousness is called Sadhu, right? So when we were studying this one, so I was telling that the three modes of nature, in mode of goodness is the material mode of goodness that we are studying here, and then we also have to transcend the material mode of goodness. So if we work on full Krishna consciousness, so then that is like Vishuddha Sattva, that is completely pure. So, but if we are doing it with any material tinge of any material goal, but then we are little bit in the Sattva Guna, so that means no attachment to Krishna, are not done for the pleasure of Krishna, but then the interest in, there is no attachment to the results of this material world also. So then it is called material mode of goodness. But if the like Yajna Dana Tapa, if it is done for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, then it becomes fully Krishna conscious, or fully Vishuddha Sattva. It is fully purified. Okay. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3:25-25, it is said that the transcendental subject matter becomes clear in the association of the devotees. The words used are Satam Prasangat. So that's a very, very nice shloka. Satam Prasangat Mama Virya Samvido Bhavanti Hrit Karna Rasayana Katha, no Tad Joshanadya Apavargavatmani Shraddha Ratir Bhaktir Anukramashyati. So it says that with good association, Satham Prasangat. So when we hear the subject matter, Rasayana Katha, the glories of the Supreme Lord, then one makes drastic progress in Krishna consciousness, and he gets freed from the apavarga. That is the material nature is in a short called as apavarga, or the problems of material nature is in short called as apavarga. So he crosses the material influences, and then Shraddha Ratir Bhaktir Anukramashyati. So he progresses to the path of this Adav Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, and things like that. So all those things are put in the category of Shraddha. And then Rati means the stage of Bhava, and then the Bhakti means the stage of Prema. So a devotee progresses very, very rapidly in the path of in the progression. So just by doing doing this simple activity, by in association hearing about Krishna, satam prasangat. Okay. Without good association, one cannot achieve transcendental knowledge. When initiating a person or offering the sacred thread, one vibrates the words Om Tat Sat. Similarly, in all kinds of performance of yajna, the object is the supreme Om Tat Sat. The word Artiyam further means offering service to anything which represents the supreme, right? So Tad means like that personality, right? So that's like so tadartham means like it is to pointing to someone, right? So here the pointing is anything with that represents supreme, so that is the pointing, no tad meaning. Okay, including such service as cooking and helping in Lord's temple or any kind of work for broadcasting the glories of the Lord. These supreme words, Om Tat Sat, are thus used in many ways to perfect all activities and make everything complete. Okay, so text 28. Ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapastaptam kritam chayat asad iti uchyate partha nachattat prethya no iha. Okay. Anything done as sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme, O son of Pritha, is impermanent. It is called asat and is useless both in this life and the next. So, what is called asat? Asat means anything that which is not in connection with the Supreme Lord is called asat, and anything that is in connection with the Supreme Lord becomes sat. Purport. Anything done without the transcendental objective, whether it be sacrifice, charity, or penance. Now we are discussing like it is. This section is actually in connection with the yajna, dana, and tapa, which the Lord mentioned in the past few slokas about the yajna in three categories: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And then tapa, in the tapasya of body, tapasya of mind, and tapasya of words. And these three again in goodness, passion, and ignorance. And then dana, so charity in goodness, passion, and ignorance. So these things have to be done for the purpose of pleasing the Supreme Lord, right? So if it is not done for the pleasing of Supreme Lord, so then such yajna, dana, and tapa are called asat. It becomes completely useless. Okay. So therefore, in this verse, it is declared that such activities are abominable. Everything should be done for the Supreme in Krishna consciousness. Without such faith and without the proper guidance, there can never be any fruit. In all the Vedic scriptures, faith in Supreme is advised. In the pursuit of all Vedic instructions, the ultimate goal is understanding of Krishna. No one can obtain success without following this principle. Therefore, the best course is to work from the very beginning in Krishna consciousness under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. That is the way to make everything successful. In the conditional state, people are attracted to worshipping demigods, ghosts, or yakshas like Kuvera. The mode of goodness is better than the mode of passion and ignorance. But one who takes directly to Krishna consciousness is transcendental, and all three modes of material nature, although there is a process of gradual elevation, if one by the association of pure devotees takes directly to Krishna consciousness, that is the best way. And that is recommended in this chapter. To achieve success in this way, one must first find the proper spiritual master and receive training under his direction. Then one can achieve faith in the Supreme. When that faith matures in course of time, it is called love of God. This love is the ultimate goal of living entities. One should therefore take to Krishna consciousness directly. That is the message of this 17th chapter. Thus in the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 17th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of divisions of faith. Okay, so we will enter the 18th chapter, the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. Text 1. Arjuna uvacha sannyasasya mahabaho tattvam ichchami veditum tyagascha cha hrishikesha pritakeshi nisudana. So in one sense, like the 18th chapter is the summary of whole of Bhagavad Gita. In fact, the summary that we had presented, Bhagavad Gita, overview of Bhagavad Gita, is basically taking the thread of 18th chapter, but not covering all the details of 18th chapter there. So it is very elaborate and exhaustive. So no, we had kind of took the storyline of the 18th chapter and made the Bhagavad Gita overview presentation. But anyways, so here we see that Arjuna is again going to the square one. So he is asking about the sannyas, and this is the main problem that Arjuna had in the beginning. That is I don't like this work to be done, so I want to renounce everything. So here Arjuna is not asking in terms of doubtful nature, but he is bringing up the point in a way that he wants to know the difference between sannyasa and tyaga and things like that. So that is something that Arjuna is bringing about, and Krishna will clarify, and then this serves as recollection of all the points that are covered in the entire Bhagavad Gita. So 18th chapter is very, very important. So this is one kind of a summary, of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So Arjuna said, "O mighty armed one, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, tyaga, and of the renounced order of life, that is sannyasa. O killer of the Keshi demon, master of the senses." So he's asking this question to Krishna. Purport. Actually, the Bhagavad Gita is finished in 17 chapters. The 18th chapter is a supplementary summarization of the topics discussed before. In every chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna stresses that devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. This same point is summarized in the 18th chapter as the most confidential path of knowledge. In the first 6 chapters, stress was given to devotional service, yoginam api sarvesham madgathena antaratmana, right? So, of all yogis or transcendentalists, one who always thinks of me within himself is best. In the next 6 chapters, pure devotional service and its nature and activities were discussed. In the third 6 chapters, knowledge, renunciation, and activities of material nature and transcendental nature and devotional service were described. So it was concluded that all acts should be performed in conjunction with the Supreme Lord, represented by the words Om Tat Sat, which indicate Vishnu, the Supreme Person. The third part of Bhagavad Gita has shown that devotional service and nothing else is the ultimate purpose of life. This has been established by citing the past acharyas and the Brahma Sutra, the Vedanta Sutra. Certain impersonalists consider themselves to have a monopoly of the knowledge of Vedanta Sutra, but actually the Vedanta Sutra is meant for understanding devotional service. For the Lord himself is the composer of the Vedanta Sutra, and he is its knower, right? So Vedescha Sarvair Ahameva Vedya Vedanta Krit Veda Videva Chaham. Right? So he mentions that. So that is described in the 15th chapter. In every scripture, every Veda, devotional service is the objective. That is explained in Bhagavad Gita. As in the second chapter, a synopsis of the whole subject matter was described. In the 18th chapter also, the summary of all instructions is given. Right? So first chapter is just an introduction, to the scene, setting the scene, and then the second chapter is kind of a summary. It's like prelude summary, like it's kind of as we start. We give introduction and then a synopsis and then things like that, and then we get into the main subject, and then in the end conclusion. So this Bhagavad Gita also has that kind of a structure. So wherein we have the introductory material and then the this one in the end conclusion. So this helps us to summarize and to understand the subjects of Bhagavad Gita in much more easier way, right? Okay, so summary of all instructions given. The purpose of life is indicated to be renunciation and attainment of the transcendental position above the 3 material modes of nature. Arjuna wants to clarify the 2 distinct subject matters of Bhagavad Gita, namely renunciation, tyaga, and renounced order of life, sannyas. Thus, he is asking the meaning of these 2 words. 2 words used in this verse to address the Supreme Lord, Rishikesha and Keshi Nishudana, are significant. Rishikesha is Krishna, the master of all senses, who can always help us attain mental serenity. Arjuna requests him to summarize everything in such a way that he can remain equipoised. Yet he has some doubts, and doubts are always compared to demons. He therefore addressed Krishna as Keshi Nishudana. Keshi was a most formidable demon and was killed by Lord. Now Arjuna is expecting Krishna to kill the demon of doubt. Okay. So the answer to this will be, okay, we will cover a little bit. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kam Kamyanam karmanam nyasam sanyasam kavayo vidu sarva karma phalatyaham prahustyagam vichakshana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men called renounced order of life. Renounced order of life means giving up all the activities which are based on material desires. So activities in itself is given. And giving up the results of activities is what wise call renunciation, right? Or tyaga. So here, now in our Bhakti Shastri course, like somebody was asking this question, that why Krishna is telling that no learned men call this, or no wise men say this and things like that. So why Krishna can say like, no, this is how I see it. No, that's the ultimatum. So why Krishna is giving this? So Krishna is introducing the system of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So even Krishna, when he is giving pramana, he is giving pramana based on Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So that's the way, like, we should also try to offer praman, offer evidences, right? So it's not that, this is my opinion. No, it's not like that. Krishna says many things as his opinion also, but then he also brings in the Guru Sadhu Shastra, right? So he is talking about the wise men, who is learned. So they talk about this. So we should accept it like that. The performance of activities for results has to be given up. This is the instruction of Bhagavad Gita. But activities leading to advanced spiritual knowledge are not to be given up. This will be made clear in the next verses. In the Vedic literature, there are many prescriptions of methods for performing sacrifice for some particular purpose. There are certain sacrifices to perform to attain a good sun or to obtain elevation to the higher planets, but sacrifices prompted by desires should be stopped. However, sacrifices for the purification of one's heart or for advancement in spiritual science should not be given up. Okay, so this is there. Then we'll continue one more. Tyajyam dosha vadityeka karma prahur manishinah yajnadana tapakarma na tyajyam iti chapare. Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty, yet other sages maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned. Purport. There are many activities in the Vedic literatures which are subjects of contention. For instance, it is said that an animal can be killed in a sacrifice, yet some maintain that animal killing is completely abominable. Although animal killing in a sacrifice is recommended in the Vedic literature, the animal is not considered to be killed. The sacrifice is to give a new life to the animal. Sometimes the animal is given a new animal life after being killed in that sacrifice. And sometimes the animal is promoted immediately to the human form of life. But there are different opinions among the sages. Some say that animal killing should always be avoided, and others say that for a specific sacrifice it is good. All these different opinions on sacrificial activity are now being clarified by the Lord Himself. Okay, Nischayam Shunu me tatra tyaga bharata sattama tyago hi purusha vyagra trivida samprakirtitaha. Okay, so, O best of the Bharatas, now hear my judgment about the renunciation. O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of three kinds. So, here the renunciation is also, Krishna is going to bifurcate into renunciation in mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So, we will just read this purport and then we will see the discussion on renunciation on the three modes tomorrow, right? So, purport. Although there are difference of opinion about renunciation, here the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, gives his judgment, which should be taken as final. After all, the Vedas are different laws given by the Lord. Here, the Lord is personally present, and his words should be taken as final. The Lord says that the process of renunciation should be considered in terms of modes of material nature in which it is performed. Okay, so we will stop here for today. श्रीमद् भगवत गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. हरे कृष्णा.